So we're going to look at Behringer X32 here at Liberty Baptist Church and kind of walk through how everything's set up, how everything works, and what you need to know to be able to run it on a Sunday. So pull in. Pull in here and we'll look at this real quick. So as far as the settings on the board and the layout of the board, you've got three main sections. You got this section here, and this section here. This section is your main preamp, head gain, and compression and EQ, and your bus signal section. So this section here controls each individual channel, which we'll get into in a second. This section here is going to be your it's got 4 different pages, but it has your main mix on it, and then each this is the first 16 channels of your main mix. This is the second 16 channels of your main mix, and then on these bottom 2 pages you actually have your auxiliary channels, which are right here, 8 channels of auxiliary, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and then we have 8 channels of effects here as well. And then this bottom page is your bus master, which is going to mimic what you have over here on this side, which we'll get to in a second. And then over here, this is your groups and buses section of the board, and so this will be your monitors, and on page 3 here, this will be your effects send, and so we'll talk about all that in a second. Right here is going to be your main left and right fader, so this controls your main mix coming out of the front of the house. And then over here in this top corner is going to be your talk back, so if you want to talk to the band or the choir, you can hit this button right here and talk to them, and you can hear it come through there. This is your scenes section. You probably won't need to mess with that unless Ian tells you to, but it's where we can go in and save scenes and kind of recall past services and those kind of things. This is your effects, and it's an assignable section, but right now it's assigned to effects parameters. The only part of this you'll need to pay attention to is this is your tap tempo for the delay. So if someone's singing and you have a delay on their voice, you can tap it in at the tempo of the song. Other than that, these other parameters are assignable to anything inside of the board. It's kind of a flexible section. These are your mute groups, and each one will mute a different section depending on how you have it set up. So all right, we'll dive in a little bit more to how the X32 works on an individual channel basis. So coming from an analog board, it works a little bit differently. So on an analog board, your channel strip, you would have your fader, and then above your fader you would have your pan knob, and then you'd have your bus send or auxiliary send knobs above that, and then above that you would have your EQ knobs, and then above that you'd have your final head gain knob. Well, it's a little bit different in that the knobs don't line up, but each one of these knobs here in this top section do apply in the same way that the knobs would on an analog board. And so the way it works is on each channel you have a select button, and so the select button is at the top of the channel, and then you have a solo button so you can listen to only that channel if you would like, and then you have your mute button below that. If you want to change the parameters on any one of these channels, you would go in and you would select that channel, no matter what it is. So we're going to select the piano VX5 microphone that we have here, and now that we have this selected, up here are the parameters that are going to affect that microphone. And so this first knob here is going to be your main head gain. So on an old analog board, this knob is the same as the knob that's at the very top of your row of knobs. It controls your main head gain, overall gain of the channel. And then next over here is your low cut. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when I get to the EQ section. But then you have a gate right here. And to explain gates a little bit, a gate acts like its name says that it would, and it's a gate. And it says, you know, you have a signal happening, you know, here. And if you have a gate set here, it's essentially going to say, I'm not going to turn this microphone on until the signal gets above this certain level. So as soon as the signal hits that level, it opens the gate, and then whenever it drops below that level again, the gate closes. That's really good for, say, if you have a guitar amp that's a little bit noisy, and you want to mic it. Well, when the guitar player's not playing, you don't want that noise coming through, so you would set that gate just above that noise level. So that guitar amp's making that noise right here, but as soon as the guitar player starts to play, it opens the gate. He's playing, but as soon as he stops to play, that gate closes back, and it takes away that noise. So that's kind of how a gate works. Next we have compressor, or as it's labeled on the X32, dynamics. And the easiest way to visualize what a compressor does is inside the compressor you have the option to add gain to a signal, and then you also have an option to compress and take the signal and kind of hold it at a certain level. And so signal's coming up, getting louder. A compressor essentially says, all right, here is as loud as you can get, and as soon as it hits that, it starts squeezing it down, compressing it down, and it keeps it from going any higher than that. So that's how a compressor works. And then we have our EQ section. This EQ is a parametric 4-band EQ, and we'll zoom in and look at that a little bit more in a second. These are your bus sends. This would work in the same way that you would visualize on one of the older boards, where you turn the knob and it sends more or less to that auxiliary send. But we're gonna look at this in a little bit of we're gonna do monitors in a little bit of a different way. And then this is your main bus out. You're not really ever gonna have to do anything with this, except for if this light right here is not on, then the signal is not gonna go to front of house. So say with this Piano VX5 we have selected here, if I turn that off, then the signal will not go to front of house anymore. So you want that on all the time. Another kind of thing that's specific to here at Liberty is with the way the system is set up, being a mono system, not being stereo, all of our channels need to be panned hard right. So as you turn this is your pan knob. If it's panned all the way left, you will not get signal out of the channel. It needs to be panned all the way right, because all the way right is actually what's going to be sending to the amps to go to front of house. This interface here in the screen, and kind of look a little bit more at what this is going to do to each channel. Below each one of these sections, and if you'll notice it, pretty much any section that's important is actually grayed out as a box in its own little separate box on the board. So it kind of helps you visually keep track of where you're at. Each one of those boxes and sections has its own view button. And so we're going to start with viewing the equalizer, because it's probably going to be the easiest one to understand. So we're going to hit this view button at the bottom of the equalizer. Remember, we're on this Piano VX5 channel. We're going to hit view. Immediately that takes us from our home overview page. This is an overview of everything that's happening on this channel. As soon as we hit view, it's going to zoom us into the EQ on the channel. And so the way that the EQ works is you have a low mid, high mid, and high register on this EQ that's going to control all of your frequencies from 0 to 20K. And then over here on the left you have your your mode button, which is going to change each parameter between a VEQ, a PEQ, a high cut, a high shelf, a low shelf, a low cut. So I'll show you that in a second. But just to visualize how this is going to work, I'm going to select this high frequency band here, and I will watch right here as I edit this. I'm going to take the gain of that high frequency band. I'm going to turn it up. You see it coming up there, and so you can take it up, you can take it down. I would suggest with any EQing that you do, rarely ever add EQ to it. I would always suggest cutting EQ out to get the sound that you're looking for. So let's just cut that down, and then this next knob here is the frequency, and that's going to allow you to slide it left and right to be able to choose which frequency you would like to take out. And then the Q knob here at the top controls how wide or how tight that cut is going to be. And then if you'll notice over here, we can swap between PEQ and VEQ. It's just a wider kind of bell curve versus a point curve. And then we're going to oscillate up here to the high shelf, and that's going to turn that into a high cut, so you can kind of cut everything out like that. Well, it kind of shelves it out. So it cuts it down to -15, but then if you want to actually cut it out, you'll go up one more mode to high cut, and that will actually cut all of that signal out. So you have those different options that you can toggle between depending on what you're wanting to do with each one of those EQs. Very flexible, very usable. And then a note on EQ that I normally do, that's a quick, easy way to find what frequencies you need to take out of a signal. Roll it up, cue it down a little bit so it's a really skinny frequency range, and then roll it through, and whenever you hear a frequency that sounds really harsh and just really kind of hurts, take it out. And that's a good kind of quick way to get at least a bass for your EQ. And so that covers our EQ section of this of the effects up here at the top. So we're gonna zoom back out to home. That takes us back to our overview page of this channel. We're still on Piano VX5. Now we're going to zoom in on dynamics, the compression. So zoom into that. There we are. This brings up our graph for the compression on this channel. And so this little blue dot here, as signal comes into this microphone, you'll see this blue dot go up and down, and you see this little curve here as it curves over. That is actually your threshold. That determines at what level that signal is going to be squeezed in and compressed down. And so when that happens, you'll see this red bar will illuminate. I'm going to give you an example. We're going to switch from Piano VX5 over here to Handheld 1 so you can kind of see how this works. You turn this on. Check. Check 1, 2, check. So you can see as I talk, that blue dot, it jumps up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this threshold down quite a bit, and you'll see it catch it. Check 1, 2, check. And so see, as it catches it, it shows you how much it's compressing it, how many dBs it's being compressed, all the way down to 10, 12, check. So that's how a compressor works, and that's how it looks inside of this. You've got your ratio, which controls how hard it cuts it off. Attack is how fast it kind of starts cutting that signal off. Hold and release are how long it holds on to that signal and how long it takes for it to let go of it. So that's kind of some